Hey guys, it is Wednesday, January 28th, first day of school for me, my last term, graduating in May, fingers crossed. But it is also comic book review day, and well, second thing second, I guess. I'm not sure why everything is all kind of pink-ish. Um, Maybe it's a dream sequence. That's the best I got. But anyway, I'm going to start off with a book from a couple weeks ago that I just got today, The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl #1. Now it's a few weeks rather late, so I'm not going to talk that much about it, but I am going to say that I really enjoyed this comic. It is written by Ryan North, who just came off of Adventure Time, which was another book that I really liked. And there's a lot of similar stylistic things going on. And you can tell it's the same writer pretty much by the writing, which is very good. He even does the same thing where he writes little commentaries on the bottom of each page. Overall, I thought it was a really good book that is just 100% charming from the get-go. From the art style, it starts off with Squirrel Girl making her own version of the Spider-Man theme song, and it just the charm just continues through the entire book. So just very good. I recommend it. Basically for anyone who's looking for a lighter-hearted sort of comedy superhero book. And things seem to definitely ramp up by the end of the first issue too. Overall, very good. Really enjoyed it. Moving on to this week's books, we have Adventure Time, #36. Not Ryan North this time. It's a new creative team. Christopher Hastings and Zachary Sterling. And for better or for worse, I really couldn't, if I hadn't already known this, I really couldn't have told you the difference. The book looks and reads pretty much the same as it always has, which again is, if you've liked the book, great. If you haven't, you're probably not going to start. However, I have liked the book, so it's a pretty good thing for me. My one problem that I've had really with this book so far is that this takes place on the moon, and the Earth back there isn't destroyed, which it is supposed to be if you pay attention to the Adventure Time canon like I do, because I clearly don't have a life outside of this. But yeah, just that bothered me. Like, a chunk of this should be missing, and maybe it's the chunk on the other side of the Earth, but I don't know. I don't know if it's not a visible chunk. I have to say it's not there. Other than that, there's a really good, at least for me, there's a really good panel where a witch casts a spell using lorem ipsum, which I'm not going to say it's like an inside joke thing, but if you've ever had to make a fake website or fake anything, you probably know what lorem ipsum is. So just as someone who got that, I enjoyed that little shout out to filler text things. But yeah, it's a pretty good issue for the first team, because it really does just feel like everything's the same sort of art style, same quality of writing. If anything, the book just, it didn't have a big laugh out loud moment like I'm kind of used to from this book. Again, it's not bad, but it's missing that one thing that actually made me guffaw or literally laugh out loud or something. But again, that's not entirely demerit against the book. That could just be me this week. Moving on to sorry about that. My computer was an idiot for a second. Anyhow, moving on to Future's End, #39. And I thought this book is picking up from what Future's End. It's kind of on the little sine wave sort of thing, and I feel like this is definitely picking up in that respect. I didn't like the first bit too much with Firestorm and Polaris, but I felt like it's actually going somewhere instead of cutting off way too soon. However, part of the book I'm really enjoying is the stuff with 50 Sue. I really like how what they're doing with 50 Sue and making this kind of like a family story. I just think it's well written at this point. I like the chemistry that that Lana and names that Grifter, why can't I remember names at all? That anyway, I like the chemistry that that all these characters here share as kind of this really dysfunctional makeshift family. Because it like as dysfunctional and kind of makeshift as it is, it still has all the hallmarks of a good family in that they have a kid and it's all about keeping the kid safe. You know, I mean, it's a kid who's has all the powers of a god, but it's still about keeping her safe, keeping her happy despite all the fucked up shit that's going on in their lives. We also have a bit of the Superman and John Constantine story where Superman gets attacked by corn people, which is pretty great. I don't know. I just love silly things like that. I like Superman getting attacked by corn people. And that scene ends with Superman whooshing off into action, which is always good, in my opinion, always a good thing to see, Superman just whooshing off. I enjoy that, like I said. I'm kind of a sap for stuff like that. And then at the very end, we flash back to, where's the very end? Almost the very end. We flash back to Castle Frankenstein, where Frankenstein is, I mean, he's short. He's not in this comic for long. I don't want to spoil too much, but Dr. Frankenstein, this guy, isn't in the comic for much. But I really enjoyed how he was written for these short few pages. And we also have a, I don't want to say a twist, but I guess a ripple sort of thing that hints that this book is finally kind of over the tipping point in terms of plot, and things are going to change now, that the future is not set in stone and all that sort of things. So pretty interesting overall, but like it's 39 issues in and it is weekly, so it's hard to say jump in here or anything like that. Moving on to Gotham by Midnight, issue number 3. And the first thing I want to point out, which I've pointed out I think in the previous 2 issues too, is lovely art. I really enjoyed this art style, and the one page that was like, oh my gosh, yes, for me. Like just the one page that totally sold me on the art style, and I hope sells you too, is this kind of big, it's not a splash page, but this just big full page. I just got like so much movement and emotion from it. I mean, it looks almost animated in my opinion. Like I can see this shadow actually moving and the girl reeling back. Just everything about this page works for me. The colors, the contrast, the movement, the style, just everything about it. Just like the face, the shadow's face, how it's like kind of playful and menacing at once. It looks, I want to say kind of like Invader Zim, like that sort of kind of early 2000s kind of dark cartoon art style, which I really like. The main part of this book is actually fighting this shadow creature, and in it I think we get a little bit of development, just story development that we're missing for the first 2 issues. The first thing we get is we get a little bit more backstory on Drake, another one of the team members. But we also see how the team works together, or at least 3 of them in the team. We see really just, I guess, how they work together, and it's really neat. So you have Drake, who's kind of the muscle. We find out in this book that she has some sort of powers that keep her safe. So she's like the first one to go in and kind of make contact with each threat. Then we have Corrigan, who, as host to the Spectre, acts as kind of a plan B in case things ever get out of hand. He'll be there with the Spectre to get things under control, but that's like a last resort sort of thing. And then you have Dr. Sanzerzawa over here, who's the brains of the operation. He's the only one who tries talking to this creature. He's the one who doesn't use brute force because he doesn't have it, and he's resourceful, and he first learns this language earlier in the book, like a few pages before this scene, and then he's immediately speaking it and trying to get as much information from the shadow creature as we can. We also get what I think is a nice hint towards kind of the outer DC continuity with this book, with one of the characters, with Drake, what her power might be. I mean, I could just be reading this wrong, but I think she might be related to another DC heroine with a similar power. Let me try and flip to the page where she does it. Yeah, so another DC heroine with a similar power, also given her name, is Lisa Drake. But yeah, overall, this book I think is becoming a really nice procedural as we develop the team more, as we develop how they work together to actually fight these things, and just see them working together in general and having that rapport and things. Really enjoying how it's shaping up, and again, I just really enjoy the art style. I like how it plays with light, contrast, shadow, and just everything about it, really. I think it's really cool looking. Next up, we have Arkham Manor, issue 4. And the story in this book gets started very fast from where we picked off last issue. Second page, we have Clownface attacking someone. Clownface being the monster that the Joker created using I think it was a catatonic clayface. We have this, and Bruce Wayne immediately jumps into action in the next scene. Here we get kind of the first hint of this book really intersplicing the Batman and the Bruce Wayne personas. So we have like this really nice interplay between the Jack Shaw cover persona, him as a criminal, and then leaping into the Batman persona and going back to the mansion in order to deal with this sort of thing, which I think is really nice, how you have that interplay of Jack Shaw being the inside guy and Batman being Batman, and how he's using the information he gains as Jack Shaw to be a more effective Batman in the Manor without actually being Batman in Arkham Manor. I mean, I think this is the book really coming together. Oh, and I just noticed this little detail here where Jack Shaw's shadow is Batman. Really nice touch there. But yeah, I think with this issue we see the book's conceit really coming together as, you know, Bruce Wayne in the Manor trying to keep order, and then as Batman enforcing that as only Batman can. And I want to see how this builds now within this current arc of him being Batman in the Manor trying to fight the same criminal that he tried to fight as Jack Shaw and couldn't. So if you've been holding up on this book, I think maybe this is the issue to get started on. And then pick up the last two if you like what you've read here and want to actually understand kind of what's been going on so far. Or maybe just pick it up in trade when the trade eventually comes out. But I'm excited to see where this book goes now that we're actually seeing some Batman in it and seeing how they're playing off Bruce Wayne's 2, or rather 3 personas in this book. Next up, we have Gotham Academy, issue 4. Again, I'm not sure I'm entirely sold on this book. Just not the sort of thing I usually find myself reading, but I also can't help but enjoy it. It really does have a little bit of everything. It has like a little of everything like that you get in kind of this young adult sort of novel things, like mystery things. You get mysterious symbols popping up everywhere. We have a mysterious boy who's, you know, just a mystery. We don't know anything about him, but he's kind of cute and, yeah, has an interest in the main lead girl character. It's kind of like very, I guess, Harry Potter meets Scooby-Doo, where you have, you know, secret hallways, and then you have some fake ghosts, and really you just get a little bit of everything here. You can't really blame them for not trying. Yeah, so here's the secret passage, and I'm definitely warming up to the art style. I mean, it's pretty. I'm just not. I don't know. It felt a little too flat before. I mean, I never didn't like it, but I don't know. It felt like something was off. But after 4 issues, I'm kind of getting used to it. And the facial, just the expressions is really well done here. The use of kind of, I don't know, just the faces are very expressionful. Lots of blush, I guess, on the characters. The lighting really makes everything seem kind of dynamic and moving. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what I'm getting at here. It's still a little anime-esque, I guess. But it's weird. It's like this uncanny midpoint between kind of Western animation and anime-esque, and like kind of comic book non-cartoon art. Not quite sure how to peg it. It's almost actually like those kind of Canadian cartoons that were like on Cartoon Network in, I don't know, like 2008, 2009, like Code Lyoko or Martin Mystery or stuff like that, where it was, I don't know, just like a very similar style, and I guess like that's the most kind of similar thing I could compare it to. But yeah, this book it just has like a bunch of kind of young adult stuff all stirred up in a pot, from kind of like Scooby-Doo, Harry Potter, other boarding school books and kind of mystery books and stuff like that, with a healthy dose of Batman, which, you know, doesn't hurt anything. But yeah, I'm still trying to really form a concrete opinion on whether or not I actually like this book or just find it kind of novel. Next up, we have Batman Eternal. I'm just looking through my notes. Yeah. Next up, we have Batman Eternal. We finally reached the point where we came into the story on Batman issue 28, I believe it was, the flash forward to the Batman Eternal story. So we finally reached it, and it kind of jumps back and forth from just before the events of Batman 28 and just after the events of Batman 28, where we have Bluebird and Batman rescuing Stephanie Brown, and then how they're dealing with Stephanie Brown now that she's in their hands. We start off with Harper and Harper's brother, whose name is Cullen, with them kind of keeping Stephanie Brown in their apartment, which is one of the last places that Batman thinks anyone would go looking for her. What I love right here about this is that right in the corner on this TV, they have what looks to be Streets of Rage. Like, it could be Double Dragon or Final Fight, but from my knowledge, I'd say this is Streets of Rage. You guys can comment if I'm wrong, but it's pretty cool. They just have a screenshot of a video game there, like, hey, there it is, I guess. I don't know. That's just a novel, I guess. So yeah, a lot of this book is actually kind of Bluebird and Spoiler bonding. They're both, you know, young girls, or young women rather, who just kind of got thrown into the superhero thing, not really sure what's up or down, very confused. A lot of happening stuff that seems to be surrounding or orbiting them. And they have very conflicting personalities. It's kind of a downtown versus suburban thing mostly. At least that's how Bluebird seems to frame it. But by the end of the book, they bond, which I guess that's the easy way to pull it. We also get some flash, like just directly to scenes from Batman 28 with Bluebird's kind of first team up with Batman and seeing how that goes. So yeah, it's just, I think, yeah, like this page, you see them like really bond. And that seems to be the crux of this book, is both of these girls um, really adapting to their new kind of places in the world. And you have Bluebird, who looked up to Batman and is kind of emulating him. And then you see how Catwoman really kind of got into Spoiler's head, and how Catwoman is influencing how maybe Spoiler should behave and what Spoiler should do now that she's chosen this life for herself. So very, I don't know, in my opinion, some pretty interesting stuff. And again, I'm really liking the art of this book. I mean, just I think the splash page, I like how it's so bold. I like just the models. Batman seems like really well proportioned, as does Bluebird in this. Yeah, just really liking the art in Batman Eternal right now. And that's pretty much all I have to say here. This book again ends with kind of another twist to escalate the story, get people thinking, well, who is behind all this? I'm kind of done guessing because I just want to go along for the ride at this point. But yeah, they're definitely keeping the gears turning and trying to keep you on your toes in terms of who is behind all of this. Next up, we have Batman, and it's really hard for me to describe this book in much detail because it's just so big, really. And there's a panel I want to point out, just because I think it's an awesome panel. Where is it? I know it's here somewhere. Here it is. Batman fist bump. I just think that's an awesome panel. Just Batman doing a fist bump. Really happy doing a fist bump. Fist bump Batman. Really cool. Just wanted to point that one panel out. But another panel, otherwise, there's one more panel that I think sums up my inability to really talk about this book. And that is midway in the book, where Batman is confronting Crazy Quilt about trying to find out how Joker seems to be immortal now. To make a long story short, Batman thinks that Crazy Quilt, who is a genius soft tissue medical doctor, helped Joker make a formula to give him enhanced healing ability, and that created an inverse of this formula that the new Joker Venom is using in order to make people degenerate instead of regenerate. And then I think this whole kind of arc is summed up, and my inability to explain this is summed up in this one panel, where Crazy Quilt has a moment of clarity, kind of the crazy people understanding that the world is on strings or whatever, saying that it doesn't feel like a Batman story anymore. And I think that's kind of the thing behind it, is that this book has gotten so big with the mythology behind the Joker and just Gotham City, that it really is hard to describe as a singular issue or even as a complete arc, especially that the arc isn't complete yet. Everything in this book just feels so kind of rooted into something else in the Batman mythos. I don't want to say like Grant Morrison, because it's in a different way than Grant Morrison, where Grant Morrison, who we're getting to in a minute, where Grant Morrison kind of takes all of these details and events and treats them all as canon. This is more of just a thematic through line of the Batman mythos. And I mean, Snyder has done this kind of with every arc. He's kind of created a through line from his book to another staple of the Batman mythos, from the Court of Owls being kind of the backstory of Gotham City, to Zero Year being the origin story, Death of the Family being kind of the Joker-Batman dynamic, to this book finally getting into kind of what is the Joker, just the essential kind of mystery and intrigue and power kind of behind the Joker character in the Batman mythos. And it's really less about where Death of the Family was about Batman and the Joker's relationship. This is just about kind of the Joker's relationship to Gotham, which is, it kind of seems like the antithesis of the rest of Snyder's work, which is kind of the Batman's relationship to Gotham. And everything this book just comes across with such magnitude, with such a feeling of, oh my goodness, you know, like, this is so big, I can't believe this is happening. I don't want to say it feels real, but it definitely feels like it has an impact. Like the things you read in this book matter outside of this book, outside of this arc, outside of Snyder's run, and just matters to the entirety of kind of what Batman is. More so than Eternal, even, which is kind of scary considering Eternal is supposed to be the big Batman anniversary thing. But yeah, it is an immense story. It is a dense, heavy story that really is all about the Joker. Yeah, I'm kind of lost for words as to how to describe it, and I kind of wish I had the entire arc with me, because then I feel, with the ending, with kind of all the solutions, I could maybe say something about it, but as of yet, I really can't. But it is, like I said, it is something, if you like Batman, if you like the Joker, is completely worth reading, in my opinion. And next up, as I said, we have Grant Morrison's The Multiversity Guidebook, which is kind of half a chapter in the Multiversity series and then half a guidebook to the Multiversity series. And we start off with what seems to me like Morrison's take on JL8. JL8, if you don't know, is a very, very good unofficial DC fan webcomic. If you just look up J, the letter L, the number 8, just Google it. The first link you get should be the comics Tumblr page with every panel, every strip of the comic on it. And I heavily recommend it. It is one of the best DC things that I've ever read. And so we start off with kind of Grant Morrison's take on that. And it starts off like a normal Multiversity book where you have another universe's Batman kind of come in to the rescue. But then both of these Batmen discover the actual, this guidebook to the Multiversity and begin reading it, which is where the book gets into the actual guidebook part that has a lot of fun info. Well, also, concurrent to these two Batmen reading the guidebook, we also have a Commandy, the last boy on Earth, discover a cave with a mythology behind the Multiversity. And then he reads that, and that's also in the book, of course. The history he reads is, of course, a history of DC crossovers. And Morrison takes every opportunity he gets to make a fun little in-joke, a little nod to things, saying that the Multiversity begins with the Flash. And if you didn't get that reference, Morrison explains it very handily on the next page by saying that the Flash was the first time the DC universe crossed over with itself, which is, I think, true. Again, I'm not the best at research, but that sounds correct. It has truthiness to it. And I do know for a certain that the Flash was the first time that the Flash interacted with another The Flash, and that was one of the first times, if not the first time, that the DC universe was like, okay, we've had these multiple superheroes, what if they existed in separate universes? And then that goes, basically from that, we take a tour of all the big crossover events in DC history, starting with the Flash, continuing with Infinite Crisis, Crisis on Infinite Earths, then going to Parallax, Superboy Prime, basically going through all the crises and stuff like that. You go to Flashpoint, and eventually end with the New 52 reboot over there. We then get a map of the DC multiverse, which seems to include pretty much everything. Like, this is kind of as meta as I think any comic book could get, really. It's just explaining itself. We get a map of the entire DC multiverse. We get a little bit, like, and this includes, as you can see here, that's Destiny from Neil Gaiman's The Sandman. We get New Genesis, Apocalypse, pretty much everything. And then near the end, the last half of this book, after the map, is a tour of all of the Earths and their superheroes. So you have Earth 0, which is the New 52 Earth, Earth 1, which has its own line of books coming out that I quite like. Earth 2, which again is a New 52 series. Earth 3, Earth 4, which you've read in a previous one, that's the Watchmen thing. What are some other really good Earths? We have Earth 8, which is just the DC's Marvel universe, with Battle and Bug, Stuntmaster, Behemoth, Major Max. So this is their most kind of just Marvel-y universe, and I think it's great how they have the old kind of DC logo as the 8 there. Earth 10 is just Nazi Earth. What else do we get? There's another cool alternate Earth. Earth 21 is the New Frontier, Darwin Cook's limited series that I think was turned into a movie that I really enjoy. Earth 22 is another Elseworlds book, Kingdom Come. And so you just get a tour of all these different, Earth 29 is Bizarro Earth. So yeah, just a tour of all these different kind of DC universes that are really neat. Earth 30 is Red Sun. So it's just not really much of a story, but some really fun reading, I think, going on here. Yeah, just lots of fun little tours among kind of the entire DC canon. And then by the end, we fall back into the main multiversity plot, where things, I guess this is kind of the midpoint in Multiversity, where enough has kind of been explained. I mean, this is almost the entire backstory at that point, where we can finally start getting the kind of major crossover, everything happening at once, that Multiversity was sold as. So good on that. I'd recommend this just as a purchase on its own, just to see, just as a guide to the DC universe. I think it's kind of interesting reading to itself. But also, yeah, really handy if you're trying to keep up with the Multiversity story. Not skippable. This isn't like just a side story. This is part of the main plot, but also has all these really helpful details and maps and legends and stuff. What else? Moving on near the end here. We have 2 more books I want to review, actually. We're getting through this pretty fast. First up, or rather, penultimately, is Bitch Planet #2. Again, really like the first issue, and I think this one really helps. The first issue is kind of very introductory to just kind of the environment and the really teeny bit of plot and some of the characters. This one really expands on the rest of the plot and kind of the story that this book will actually be telling in the universe that's set up in the previous issue. So we begin at this very kind of swanky party being held by some sort of government, where they're talking about us versus them, before the father over here, the minister, the guy who seems to be in charge, gets pulled over, and they end with "Let the games begin." So he gets pulled over, to talk about an event that seems to be this big sports competition that involves everybody watching or having to watch, but the viewer engagement being down. And what they're basically setting up here is kind of Hunger Gamesy. Just to, I don't want it to make it sound, I don't want to make it sound derivative of Hunger Games, but that's the overall gist of the plot we're getting, is that there is a kind of dystopian government that uses the media to pacify the people, and the big media event is this sports competition, kind of gladiatorial it sounds like, where a bunch of competing teams all go at each other to win fabulous prizes, like their life. So yeah, expanding on that, this book is just really, really good. And after that story, we go back to the jail where we have this really good interaction between Cam and one of the guards, who's asking Cam to set up a team for this big event called the what was it? Not the Megatron. What's it called? Why can't I do this and look at things? Why is everything so hard? Yeah, I'm not finding it. It's not Megatron. What is this called? I cannot find it. This is really embarrassing. Damn, I should have written this down in my notes. This is definitely one of the things that I should have known I was gonna forget. But I did not. Do I know? Megaton. Megaton. It's called Megaton. I'm sorry that took so long. Yeah, Megaton is the event. So, basically, main plot of this book now is that Cam, the main character, who got into a big fight and is now in solitary confinement. Oh, and I just showed a whole bunch of porn on YouTube by mistake. Oh well. Yeah, she is asked to make a team for this big gladiatorial sports event called the Metatron. This is her basically saying no, but maybe. So she says no, and then in the rest of the book we have the other inmates trying to convince her. And I love just here you have this really funny background event going on through the back half of this book, where you have the prisoners get into a fight and eventually start a riot. Just great stuff. While in the foreground we have Cam talking to some of the other characters about starting a team and what the end game would be for them. Yeah, really interesting stuff, I think, going on. A very kind of healthy fusion of kind of Orange is the New Black, with the focus on kind of female prisoners as the main story, and as you read on, Kelly Sue DeConnick wrote a letter in the back describing what this book is going to be like. She says it'll be 30 issues, or she's aiming for 30 issues. That each third issue will kind of be a backstory on one of the inmates as we go through the main story, which I'm guessing is going to be kind of this Hunger Games-esque competition. Also, at the end of the book and at the end of every issue is an essay about feminism, which very enlightening, I feel. If you're into feminist scholarship, I guess, if you're like interested in feminism, if you're not interested in feminism, I mean, either way, read this. It's really interesting stuff. I feel if you're not interested in feminism, this could get you interested. This could really explain what the big deal is about. I mean, not one single essay in particular, but all these essays together might actually make you have a change of heart and realize that, yes, feminism is important, and it's nothing like what I imagine it might be. This essay in particular, I think, is really helpful in that. It kind of demystifies the idea of feminism as a media object, or feminism as what we, feminism that we see in the media, and explains how that's kind of confused and not what feminism is, but how it's kind of twisted from the ideal feminism, I guess. But yeah, just if you're picking up this book, you do owe it to yourself to read this essay. And yeah, really good book. Seems like it's going to be, I don't really want to, I hate saying this, but it feels like it's going to be really important. That aside from being just a good book and an entertaining book and a well-written comic book and a well-illustrated comic book, this is a book that is going to mean something going forward. And not just because of, oh, it has essays in the back, it has like proper scholarly essays in the back, no, but because the way that it uses female characters, it's a female creator writing these female characters in a way that's, I'm not going to say completely unfamiliar to comics, but that we don't really see much in the comic book medium, and that given just kind of comic book fandom and kind of nerd fandom in particular these days, is going to, I think, be really enlightening to people who read it, and it's definitely going to be the sort of thing that you want to give your friends and say, here, read this. Not only is it really good, but I think it'll change your mind about some things that maybe you should think differently about. The last book to review this week feels like a weird book to kind of move on from. But then the last book I'm reviewing this week is Sex Criminals number 10. And I don't have much to say about this, to be frank. Again, just great. Still probably my #1 favorite book coming out. Ongoing book coming out month after month. Just, again, if you're not reading Sex Criminals by now, just fucking pick up Sex Criminals. It is amazing. Some things I really want to point out in this issue, though, are this library scene here, where almost every book has something actually written on it that you can read, and that is a really fun little in-joke that Chip Zdarsky drew into the book. And unfortunately, I think that's the only page I can show you because the rest of them have like dicks in it. Like just pictures of dicks and vaginas that I'm afraid to show on YouTube because of reasons. The page I showed didn't have any of that, right? That was just a simple library thing, right? Nothing. Yeah, okay. Well, there's a few buts, but that's fine. Anyway, plot of this book, this issue, is John and Susie meeting with Jasmine St. Cocaine in order to kind of come up with the plan to get back at Keagleface. That sounds really weird coming out of my mouth. John and Susie meeting with Jasmine St. Cocaine to come out with a plan to defeat Keagleface. That's the kind of the A story, but this B story is John going to therapy, trying to get over this block he's been having, this mental block, this kind of depression block he's been having. And he finds out what that is and kind of what he has to do to resolve it, but is afraid to take this necessary steps. In the library, we have Robert Rainbow and what's her name? Rainbow and I forget her name. And Susie's roommate, because I can't remember her name. We have Robert Rainbow and Susie's roommate bonding over talking about themselves, basically, and Susie's roommate talking a lot about dick pics, which is pretty nice. It's funny. It's funny stuff. As a guy, I'm ashamed, but you know, if you can't laugh at yourself, right? Not to say I've ever done anything like that, but you know, by myself I mean other guys with penises. We're terrible. That's all I really got to say about it. And yeah, that's the gist of it. And again, best letters section in comic books. So yeah, just so good. You know, without getting into too much detail about everything, because we're 10 issues in, and I don't want to really be repeating myself. Just again, my favorite book on my favorite book in comics right now. Every issue is funny, but also really deep and makes you have feelings, which is equally as important as being entertaining, is making you actually feel feelings and think about those feelings and think, you know, empathize with the characters and then empathize with yourself and wonder, well, if I feel this way about the characters and this is what the characters are doing, maybe I can take that and apply it to my own life somehow. Just so yeah, I think again, very important, very good book. Just something I enjoy reading every month and look forward to more than anything else. I did actually pick up one more book this week that I haven't read yet and don't really plan to read for a while, and that is Casanova, Acedia #1, or Accadia. I'm saying Acedia. Comes to me, that's what I read it as, Acedia #1. And the reason I haven't read this yet is because I haven't read all the other Casanova stuff yet. I'm still making my way through Volume 2. Volume 3 still hasn't come out yet, but as soon as I'm done with Volume 2 and 3, I'm going to review Volumes 1, 2, and 3 in one big video, and then I will get started on the first issue of this, which is Volume 4. So just letting you guys know I picked it up, and I will be reading it as soon as I'm caught up. And that is it for this week. I'm sorry for the long pauses in certain things where I couldn't remember names. I will try and remember to write those down. The notes I think are really helping, and if I write down proper nouns, then I can just look at my notes and remember what all these proper nouns are that I've been forgetting. Other than that, I think that's really it. So just to wrap up, thank you for watching if you made it through this 40-something minute video. Maybe 50 minutes at this point because of the first part. Anyway, again, yeah, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please, you know, subscribe. I like to see my numbers go up, and then you get these videos just delivered to you in your YouTube feed thing whenever they go up. Very handy. And again, if you feel like it, rate this video, thumbs up, please. If you're gonna do thumbs down, just don't bother. I don't want to, you know, if you have nothing nice to say. And yeah, hope to see you guys next week with more comics. See ya.